Order. I'm going to turn it over to our council for some comments to start. Garrett.
Stand, Mike. Good evening, everyone. The packet for the Act 34 hearings available and attached to Agenda Manager. Just very briefly, an Act 34 hearing is required to be advertised under the school code a minimum of 20 days in advance of the hearing. So just want to run through for purposes of our record of our hearing tonight. The Board of School Directors on November 15th at a public meeting, their regular meeting in November, adopted the Act 34 resolution and adopted the Act 34 booklet, which authorized the maximum project cost and maximum building construction cost. All of those materials were attached to Agenda Manager prior to the November 15th meeting, have remained available to the public since that time. My understanding is on November 16th, the hearing notice was posted on Agenda Manager on the district website advertising the date, time, location of this hearing, and that has remained posted since that time on November 16th. It was also advertised in the paper. I have a confirmation from the Daily Item that the public hearing notice was included and ran on November 29th. Again, all of those to say that the district met and exceeded the 20-day hearing notice for this Act 34 hearing, so I'm comfortable that we've had plenty of opportunity for public notice. So with that, we're going to move forward with our agenda this evening. The next item being a description of the project need. We have representatives here to speak to the financial aspects, the architectural aspects, and the project need. So that ends my portion, and I'll turn it over to our next speaker.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. As you can see from the Act 34 booklet, I'm just going to talk to the project need that was, decided and determined here over the last couple years as we look to see what the vision of Millersburg looks like from our school district. I'm going to look over some bolded items: existing conditions at Lankerville Elementary School relative to program capacity, spatial limitations, as well as the overall physical condition of the building justify a need for new construction at the middle school, high school. And then on down through the need, or on down through the section of the booklet. The existing cafeteria, including the serving and student dining areas, has limited capacity due to its size. The building does not meet current program needs of the district, and the original infrastructure does not serve the current student body well. The building has undergone expansions after its original construction, and the additional capacity has brought an increase to the student population. The main entrances and original corridors, which serve the expansion areas, have not changed. Therefore, these arteries of the building become congested. In addition, while the student enrollment in the building capacity has increased since the original construction, the library, cafeteria, and support spaces have not grown. And so anyone who's familiar with our Lankerville Elementary School, yes, it's had some different renovations over the years, and I think if we have Dan Troutman take us throughout the building, you can physically see this is when this expansion took place, what year, and so forth, as it's had several over the years. But when you look at the roof, the infrastructure, the coal boiler, when you look at all of just the overall age of the building and how it operates, it's definitely in need of a refresh and/or where we have determined new versus renovation. And so that's when the transition, took place to see what it would look like on the north side of our campus. And from that, it just makes better sense from a operations standpoint, but then just from an efficiency standpoint all around for Millersburg going forward, not necessarily just meeting our needs today, but meeting our needs going forward. And so that is just a little bit of our project need, or a synopsis of what's in our Act 34 booklet. Yep.
Slide this over. I usually project pretty well, but just in case. Good evening, I'm Elisha Mickelson, the project manager and architect with Crabtree Rohrbaugh and Associates. I'm going to go a little bit more into detail about the district-owned buildings, what led us to the choice in doing the project at the location at the middle school, high school, the new elementary school addition there, and just kind of add a little bit to what Dr. Patoshnik just discussed. So the existing district owns two buildings, Lankerville Elementary School and the Millersburg Area Middle School, High School. Based on the condition of the Lankerville Elementary School, as just discussed, the school district looked through and did a feasibility study on those two district properties. During the 2020-2021 years, there was 5 options that were discussed. So there was a lot of research done, surveys done, cost estimates done that went into figuring out exactly what the best route forward might be so that the board could make an educated decision on what they wanted to do. So the Lankerville renovation only, it would maintain the current grade alignment. You would have a K through 5 elementary school, your 6, 8, 9, 12. We had a major addition to Lankerville, which again would maintain that current grade alignment. Limited additions to Lankerville Elementary School, so there was an option to look at, piecemeal, adding a few classrooms, doing an upgrade to the cafeteria, the K through 4 addition to the middle school, high school complex, or a new elementary school. Go a little bit more into these details. Again, if you would like a copy of the Act 34 booklet for reference, that is still available online for you to download. As I discussed, option 1 was renovations to meet current codes. You would have a large renovation area. You would maintain your current kitchen and cafeteria, which does have some capacity complications. Option 2 was studied doing a large demolition and then an addition project. Option 3 was additions and renovations to Lankerville, and you would relocate 5th grade to the high school, middle school complex. Options 4 was the additions and select renovations to meet program current codes and PDE guidelines. This is the option to do a addition project at the middle school, high school. Option 5 was the new building to meet program current codes and PDE guidelines. Option 4 was ultimately selected based on a number of factors. Creating adequate core curriculum, small group instructional spaces, all special education spaces, and separate classrooms for art and music. Combining the elementary school to the middle school, high school campus allows the students to share large core spaces, such as the kitchen, gymnasium, and auditorium. And the new building addition on the same site has long-term cost savings through shared maintenance and provides opportunity for growth should the district start to see an increase in population. The outsourcing program, and it brought back some of the special education programs that have been outsourced by the district to other nearby districts. You all might be familiar with the current site. Current site is about 15 acres existing, available utilities, electricity, sewer, water, and gas. The program spaces that we're going to include, which I will be showing a floor plan momentarily, general classrooms, special education classrooms, music classrooms, media center, art classrooms. And the new systems will have new VAV, HVAC systems, new lighting and lighting control systems. All of the classrooms will have exterior daylight and views to the outside. There'll be updated plumbing, and will meet all current building codes, 2018 building codes and energy codes. Some of the highlights: there's a secure entrance vestibule. That secure entrance vestibule is at the main entrance at the administration area. There's also a new elementary school connection point to the middle school, high school at the gymnasium and cafeteria level. That connection point has doors and swing out for egress, but have lockable access so that anybody coming from the middle school, high school cannot enter the elementary school without a key card. The addition itself is designed in kind of 2 wings in a general L shape. I'm gonna switch the floor plan, I'll go over that. The first section is where you have pre-K and kindergarten, some learning support spaces. At the elbow of the L is where your main entrance is with your administration and library suite. And at the back of the building, you have your first and second grade wing, plus a large LGI and cafetorium space. You have your third and fourth grade classrooms, and then at the back of that, your art and music. And then this hallway here is your connection to the middle school, high school. Go back to floor plan. So this is the overall floor plan. This is the existing at this half. You have your middle school area. You have the high school area to orient. We are in the auditorium currently in the center of this space. And here is that connection point at the back of the school. Again, the goal was to connect at this location in order to connect on the proper level so that the elementary school students, if ever sharing a space within the middle school, high school, which might be the gymnasium or this space, the auditorium, are connecting to a hallway, and the access to that space is right there. They do not have to move through the high school classroom wing. They don't have to move or interact with middle school students or high school students. It's all the main corridor. And based on timing and bells and the type of orientation, we tried to limit any overlap with students, young students being involved with any of the older students. As it is, this floor plan and the elementary school functions on its own. We'll no longer be sharing the cafeteria space. They will be sharing the same kitchen, so you're still saving costs and maintenance and staff in the sense that you are using the same kitchen staff, but items will be cooked in the kitchen and then brought over to the elementary school cafetorium space. I'll just go back here for a second. The location for the addition, again, you have your middle school, high school, existing building, and then your existing playfield. The elementary school addition is going between the existing playfield and the existing building structure. Your existing bus drop-off loop and car parking lot is right here. We're altering that slightly to maintain a separate bus drop-off loop and then adding new parking above, which will have the car drop-off loop. They will be separate. Car drop-off and bus drop-off loop will be maintained separate. This will have additional parking to make up for a few of the spaces that we lost here, as well as staff and visitor parking and handicap accessible parking to enter at your main entrance to the elementary school at this location. This is your main entrance location. This is a rendering where we were about a month ago. Some of this might be altered slightly based on railing layout and how we want things to look, but this is generally how the main entrance of the elementary school will look at. To the left is your car drop-off loop, and then down to the right there is some significant grade change that happens, so there's a series of ramps to keep the site accessible, is where the bus drop-off is and the high school and main entrance is. And with that, I am going to pass it over for the financial analysis.
Good evening. The next couple of pages will be really hard to read on the screen, but they're the Plan Con pages that we used to have to go through in order to determine the total project cost. This project does not qualify for reimbursement. However, we still go through these pages in order to determine the total project cost. And there's 3 of them ending on D20. And then my portion of the hearing begins on page 20 of the hearing booklet, if you're following along in there. So as the independent financial advisor to the school district, our job is to determine the most cost-effective method of financing the project or paying for the project. So we first looked at cash or a short-term loan, which was not feasible given the size and the scope of the project. We then evaluated the 3 long-term methods of financing, which consist of a general obligation bond issue, a financing through a local authority, or an issue through the state public school building authority, and determined at the top of the next slide, I believe, you'll see that analysis, that the general obligation bond issue is the most cost-effective method of financing the project. If you look at the bottom of that slide, oops, sorry, yep, there we go. A couple of bullet points just to point out. The school district already issued part of the financing in preparation for the project. Those are the 2022 bonds. They utilized a wraparound debt service structure for that issue, which helps to minimize the upfront cost and millage impact. And they also anticipate a cash contribution of $2,407,438 to fully fund the project, as well as a future 2023 bond issue that they won't issue until after they award bids successfully and know exactly how much they need. In that second bullet point, another method of minimizing the cost of the project financing, the district utilized bond insurance on the issue they already did, and will consider the use of bond insurance on the future 2023 bonds. And the end result or goal of that is to, again, lower the debt service for the project. And you'll see in just a bit, tables 1 and 2, the general obligation bond issue series of 2022 in the amount of $6 million. Again, those rates are already locked in, that is issued. And then on table 2, you'll see an estimate of the series of 2023. On this slide, the good news is there are some indirect cost savings to be recognized as a result of the completion of the project. You can see them spelled out in detail on this slide, but those indirect cost savings total $183,230 per year, and that has a millage equivalent of 0.69 mils of savings annually. If you go to the next slide, millage for the 2 bond issues that I've referenced, again, the 2022 bond issue that's already been issued is about 0.74 mils in millage equivalent, and the future issue of roughly $6,750,000, again, that's just an estimate at this point until the district gets their construction bids back and decides to award them, but that estimated issue of $6,750,000 is about 1.34 mils. So when you add the 2 bond issues together in mils, it's 2.08 mils, minus those savings we just looked at on the prior slide of 0.69 mils, so the net impact comes to 1.39 mils. The next slide just shows the 2 tables that I referenced earlier. So again, very hard to read on the screen, I'm sure, but in the hearing booklet, table 1 is that $6 million issue. Again, those rates are already locked in, and the district has that money in their construction fund and available to pay construction invoices. And on table 2, that's still just an estimate of the future issue that would be required to fully fund the project. With that, I will turn it back over to Jason Minnick, Board President, for the public comment period.
Thank you for the presentations. I don't think we have any pre-registered comments, do we, Mr. Petering? No. So what we'll do is we'll open it up for public comment. What I'd ask you to do is come up one at a time, come to the microphone, state your name, address, at least tell us, you know, Millersburg, Upper Paxton Township, that's probably enough. And then you'll have 5 minutes for your public comment. So, if there's anyone who'd like to start?
Who am I talking to?
It's a really good question. I think you're talking to the public, correct? So let's
Okay.
figure out.
Wait, how are they going to answer my questions?
Well, no, I don't know if they're going to.
Weren't we supposed to be able to have questions answered from like Crabtree? So, okay, Crystal Romberger, Upper Paxton Township. So I just want to know where the playground's going to be on here because I work at the elementary school. I'm a parent, and that is super, super important to me. And I didn't see anywhere where there's playground space. And also, in that quote, is any furniture included, like desks, tables, that kind of stuff? Just because from the PTO perspective, we need to know, moving forward, if we're going to do a new building, what PTO is looking at to help and where we can see, you know, if we're not getting furniture, then that's something we need to be looking at now.
Okay. Do you want to respond?
Thank you.
Hi, and I apologize, I could have answered this during the presentation. Got a little carried away with the parking. At the back of the site, and it is a little bit small here, We do have a outdoor learning area, which might be an alternate depending on costs. But with grades, we have outdoor stairs, we have a soft surface play here, which does include playground equipment, and we have a hard surface play area right behind it, which will be paved and have items like Foursquare and some of those other type of games. That area is also accessed by a service drive, so this is emergency vehicle access to the back of the building at this location. There's also emergency vehicle access from this location from the other side here, but that playground is actually based on grade. It's between one of the larger stadium hills and the elementary school, so it's protected and closed. You have gates here, so this whole area in the back is kind of open for students to let loose in.
Thank you.
I was really hoping I could do this from my seat. Dale Hoy, Upper Paxton Township. So I get it. As sentimental as I am, I'd like to see my kids go to Lankerville. Not feasible, I get it. And I understand all of this. My only concern, which I can't wrap my mind around, what are the safeguards that will be put in place for the kids that are using the gym in the event middle school or high school are making up missed gym classes? Has that been discussed?
I think that, go ahead. I can just speak as of right now. The intent for our discussions would be, at that point in time, it would only be the elementary.
Okay.
So, going into it at this point, there's been no discussion about a mix.
Okay. Just because I remember when I was in middle and high school, it would be nothing to see upperclassmen changing in the locker room, using the bathroom, and I just kind of worry that my kids, if they're up there, they go to the bathroom and there might be, older kids in the locker room. So that's my only concern with all of it, honestly. But thank you guys for everything. Appreciate it.
Could you spell your name?
Dale, D-A-L-E, Hoy, H-O-Y. Yep.
Other comments?
Thank you. My name's Brent Boyer. I'm from 1 Market Square, Millersburg. I have some familiarity with the project because I'm Vice President of Millersburg Council and I'm Chairman of our Planning Commission, so I've been through some of this, but the board, as well as myself, has a couple questions. So I have a few, if you don't mind taking them down. You're probably used to that by now. When you went through the options in the beginning, 1 through 5, do you have the costs for what the various options were? And I can give you the questions now and then you can answer them, or you can do them one at a time.
Go ahead.
So that's the first question is the cost of the different options. If you stated that, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. And then could you clarify the net millage increase as is going to be reflected on the tax bills of the residents?
It's a millage equivalent. It doesn't mean it's going to translate exactly to your tax bills, because this is just for the project. Certainly the district has other things going on in their regular operating budget, but the net impact, and this is over a multi-year period, if you look at those two tables, it's phased in gradually. But once it's all phased in, the equivalent is 1.39 mils net of those indirect cost savings.
Okay. The basketball courts, I understand. Is that resolved, or do you have an option of what you're going to do with the basketball courts?
I was like, do we have other questions? I was like, I'm going to handle all of yours at once.
Okay, and the last one is, do you have any plans for the old school at this point? Obviously, as far as Millersburg is concerned, it's a beautiful location. We have enough vacant buildings around with the old factories. They're quite an issue to deal with. So we were a little concerned of what, did you have a plan for that and what would happen with that? And that was all, thank you.
So if you want to start, you can answer, and then we'll go to Dr. Pistrick for the last one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wrong one. So I did not include in the presentation the current cost options. And at the time, right now, I can't recall off the top of my head what those numbers are directly, but I do want to speak to it in the sense that the balance of maintenance staff and maintainability was taken into account with these cost estimates. So the board looked at a series of options. Those board presentations have all been documented. The full feasibility study is available on the board's website if you want to look at the feasibility study and have the costs associated. We did not list them in the presentation because between 2020 and 2021, you've seen a significant escalation in cost increases, and us doing a cost estimate for the current market value versus what all 5 of these options are isn't comparable anymore if we left those numbers from previous to now, just in terms of how construction cost has changed and what we've seen. Those all have been documented in the board updates though. As I said, we've done multiple presentations on here's where our estimates were, here's why we've changed it, here's the updates we're seeing. So you can look at that, and that is documented. The board has seen those presentations. So the feasibility study that was done with all 5 of these is available for public review and comment as well. I do not have it currently here.
Are you comfortable just to say, was there a significant savings for this option, or was it an increase in just in general?
Not sure how we I was like,
We can get back.
Yeah.
Just get back to it, right? Prefer we just get back to the speaker, the question we can't answer tonight on the board.
Yeah, and we can follow up directly at a later time with those questions if I don't have that information available here. But like I said, it is publicly available currently if you go to the meeting minutes from the past board meetings. In terms of, sorry, don't mean to turn my back to anyone. In terms of the basketball courts, which have been addressed, they are not showing on this slide because we are intending to include it as an alternate option. So as I just mentioned with cost estimates and the district and our discussions with the board, we have been looking at how to best balance this project in the current market construction. So we know what goal we're aiming for, and we are including design options in order that on bid day, we have options. So the basketball courts, there are existing tennis courts lower on the site. The current design includes maintaining one half as tennis courts and the other half as adding, updating the paving and adding basketball courts on that half. So there will still be basketball courts located somewhere on site. It'll be one half of the tennis court area.
Just briefly address the current Lankerville site. So as of right now, we're waiting for this process to go through. So I don't have a plan to present from our standpoint for what we're going to do with Lankerville. What I can tell you, though, is that site, we want the best for Millersburg. We want the best for Millersburg School District, but we also want the best for the Lankerville area. And so our decisions going forward on that will be guided on those principles of we don't want an empty building on a lot to add to maybe some others that are in the area. In other words, we want the best use. And so that's what the process we will be going through if this process chooses to move forward here. All right.
The costs then that you have for the project don't include anything at this point because there's not a defined plan for the
What we will do with Lankerville post this is not part of the process, correct, as it stands tonight? Yep. Oh, thank you.
Other questions?
Hi, Jeff Schwartz, Center Street here in Millersburg. It is my understanding that enrollment within the Millersburg School District and neighboring school district is expected to stay the same or decline in future years. Just watching the presentation here, I was just curious as to know why we need to increase square footage of buildings. Was it taken into consideration to improve upon what we currently have, make better what we have, make better use of what we have? Thank you.
So I don't know if you have any comment to answer that, or?
Yeah, can directly discuss that.
Okay.
So I do apologize that I'll have to reference the fact that the full feasibility study is available from the past that the board has reviewed. But within the options that we went through for that full feasibility study and analysis, we definitely analyzed what it would take to update Lankerville and what it would take to build new, what it would take to build a new addition. So there was an option for a completely new elementary school, and an option for, renovating Lankerville Elementary School, an option for tearing down some of the oldest part of Lankerville Elementary School and then building new. Some of the balance and the big issues, as Dr. Patushnik noted, was the current condition of Lankerville and the balance of bringing that up to code in terms of safety, in terms of building construction, in terms of current ADA standards, let alone capacity. I mean, we can kind of take that out of the equation and just look at the infrastructure and how poor of a condition of that building is in. The fact that we're still in the coal-fired heating system. There was a lot of elements to bring that up to current code, and that cost balanced with what it would take to build a new addition was not equitable. So looking at capacity, that was also a part of that full feasibility study. That's a whole analysis that we do in terms of, what future growth is looking like. Without increasing square footage, making sure that, we can bring, it was really a focus on, all right, they might not have a large number of increased students in your typical kindergarten through fourth grade enrollment, but you are outsourcing special education programs to other districts because you don't have the room for them. So trying to balance what your current capacity is and also bringing those spaces back to the district, that was kind of the look at increasing or maintaining capacity. But it was really the balance of what condition Lankerville Elementary School currently is and how to bring that up to proper code and ADA code.
So,
Sorry, one other question. Do you have the current estimate of what it would cost to bring the elementary up to the current code?
So that kind of follows back to that first feasibility study, that board presentation that was done. This slide basically here that you're seeing is that feasibility study presentation slide, which was presented in 2021. So that is available to the public, that we can look that up. That isn't comparable in today's market. I would just like to note that, if you looked at Lankerville Elementary renovation only, the first option there, what the construction industry has done in the past year and a half, just based on the pandemic and a number of other items, those numbers from what our estimate is today to what that number was in 2020 isn't necessarily apples to apples. But, if you wanted to add that equivalent escalation factor, you would be able to compare it like that.
So, and just to add from the board perspective, we did look at that as look at the renovation straight as a renovation, then looked at those other options to add a little more space where we thought it might be needed to kind of bring classrooms up to current requirements, current expectations, and be able to possibly bring some students back, which is where some of that cost savings comes from that was talked about. And we couldn't really do that in the existing footprint. The other issue is there's some concerns that were brought up over the cafeteria and kitchen over there, which we couldn't really address unless we did an expansion over there or did something else. So, and then when we looked at all those costs, which are in all the feasibility study, the board decided to move forward with the addition over here because it seemed to make the most sense to the board. So we did definitely look at those things and ask those questions. Other questions?
My name is Bryce Minnick. I'm a student going to Millersburg High School. I live in Upper Paxton Township. I recall that you mentioned earlier that the Manning Gym would be completely just for the elementary school. Now, I may have misunderstood that. Does that mean that we are cutting or moving high school education somewhere, or high school physical education somewhere else? Or does that just mean that they are segregated in terms of time? And what effect will that have on the availability of physical education for high school students and for elementary school students due to the fact that there will be less time allotted for those courses?
So as designed, that's how this came about when the design was several years ago. And so to say that it won't have an impact on the high school schedule, won't have an impact on elementary school, it will from a student standpoint, because we're going to have limited space on those from that gymnasium. Are we able to move some things into maybe the middle school? Because I know right now there's some study halls and whatnot where that gymnasium isn't used the whole time. So we'll have to utilize our two gymnasiums maybe in a different way, but to say tonight, do I have the plan of what that looks like? I don't, other than we believe we can make it happen for all three levels, for the elementary, for the middle school, and the high school. All right.
Other questions?
Yeah, sorry. Do I have to come back up?
Yeah, you do.
He didn't have to.
He got lucky. He was too quick.
Dale Hoy, Upper Paxton Township, and the shame on me for not paying attention, I did not realize that fifth grade would be a part of middle school. Is that like the only option? We can't look at keeping the grades aligned with the new building? Is it a space issue?
I'll just speak to that. As it stands right now on our current footprint of what we have available, it does not fit for keeping the 3 classes per grade.
Okay.
The other thing is, in the middle school right now, we have 3 open rooms.
Okay.
So from that standpoint, it just makes sense
Right.
that we would transition into the middle school with their grade.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Other questions?
My name's Lauren Miller and Millersburg. I noticed that they're looking to add pre-K, and that's something that we haven't had before. So is that going to be all day? Is it going to be half days? And how many classes, is that going to be? What's that look like?
Speak to that real quickly. So from a space standpoint, we have 1 classroom available. And what that will look like, whether it's half day or full day at this point, as part of this process, we're just looking for space and accountability of, we will have options available to provide a pre-K at that. We don't have the full development yet of what that class will actually look like from this standpoint.
So on that pre-K, is that going to be like pre-K counts, or is that going to be open to all students? Is it going to be by salary, how will it be open to every resident in Millersburg, or is it only going to be offered to those government programs?
Can you say your name again?
Crystal Romberger.
Thank you.
Upper Paxton Township.
So I think we'll be yet to be determined on the pre-K counts.
Okay.
Familiar with the previous building I was at, we had a pre-K counts.
Yeah.
Something to consider is, no matter how we look at it, if we're averaging 50 to 60 students per grade, 1 classroom is going to be roughly at that 20 students. So whether it's on income or whether it be looked at from numbers, this current footprint provides us an option for probably some of the most neediest students that would be coming in from a pre-K level, but it is not designed at this point to have 50 to 60 students in a pre-K program.
Okay, so I'm looking at our local pre-K that we have now.
Yep.
I wanted to take away from them, but also, the programs are needed, but
Yep.
that's 22.
Any other questions? Hearing none, that will call a close to the public hearing. We will, what are our next steps?
There is a 30-day period with which you can place additional questions if you have any. It also is in the public announcement, so other members of the Millersburg area might have comments that can be addressed to the school district until January 19th. Those questions, as we said, some of the items tonight, we might follow up and be able to clarify in writing at a later date. The same with those questions that are addressed to the board, can follow up until January 19th and address those as well.
Okay, so I thank everyone for coming tonight, and our regular board meeting starts at 7 p.m., so you're welcome to stay. We have a couple minutes break in between the two. So thank you all.